Well, hello everybody, welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm making a pancetta and leek quiche. So pastry case with the egg and pancetta and leek mixture in the middle and baked. It's quite simple, it takes a little bit of time, and the reason I'm doing this really is that I've got lots of eggs that I need to use up, and I have the pancetta in the fridge. Now if you don't have pancetta, you could use smoked bacon, you could use unsmoked bacon, you could even use ham chopped into cubes if you wanted to. If you don't have leeks, you could use shallots or spring onions or onions. You can mix and match with these things basically. For a quiche you can put almost anything you want into it. So we have to make the pastry first and then blind bake that, and then we'll make the filling. So I'll go on to the ingredients, and for that I have, for the pastry, 200 grams, which is 1 1/3 cups, taking 1 cup measure to be 150 grams of plain flour, all-purpose flour. I have a pinch of salt. I have 100 grams of butter, which is just about 7 tablespoons. That's cold and I've chopped that into cubes. And I'm also going to use a couple of tablespoons of ice cold water when we get onto the pastry. And for the filling, I have 4 medium eggs, which would be large in the USA. I have 250 grams, which is 1 3/4 cups of pancetta in little cubes or lardons. I have 250 grams, which is 2 good sized leeks, 2 1/2 cups, or finely chopped, and that when they're finely chopped that measured 2 1/2 cups. I have 2 tablespoons of finely chopped parsley. I have 75 grams, which as you can see is just roughly a cup of shredded cheddar cheese. You could use any cheese you want really, but I had cheddar so I'm using that. And I have a couple of tablespoons of milk. I would have preferred cream, but I didn't have cream, so milk it's going to be. And I'll put those to one side for the time being, because the first thing we need to do is to make the pastry. And I'm going to do mine, start it off in the my little mini immersion blender processor. I'll put the flour in, and then I'll add my pinch of salt. And then I'm going to put the butter in, and I'm simply going to blitz it until we have sort of fine breadcrumbs. And then I'm going to turn that out into a bowl to add my water, because I want to add it a bit at a time and I don't want to work the pastry very much. So we just blitz this until it's fine breadcrumbs. And I think that looks quite good. So what I'm going to do is to tip that into my bowl. And then I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of the water. I'm just going to start to mix that together. And a little drop more of the water. So I'm going to get my hand in there and see if it just pulls together. And if it doesn't, I'll add a little drop more water. Maybe just the smallest drop more water. That's come together quite nicely, as you can see. That's good. So I'm going to form that into a disc. Just like that. And I'm going to wrap that in plastic wrap and chill it for about 15 to 20 minutes. So then when it's chilled for 15 to 20 minutes, I'll come back and we'll roll it out and put it into a greased 10-inch, 25cm tart tin. I've let the pastry chill for about 15 minutes and I've put it onto a floured work surface, and I want to roll it out to the thickness of about a quarter of an inch, 3mm. Now I should say that I have my oven preheating at 200 Celsius, that's 180 Celsius with a fan, 400 Fahrenheit. That's so that I can blind bake this pastry. So we'll roll it out, and obviously we need to roll it out larger than our 10-inch flan tin, because it has to go up the sides and I want it to overlap the edges as well. And so that's almost enough, not quite. And I think that's good enough. So I'm going to roll that onto my pin and drop it into the flan tin. I'm going to push it down. So I've pressed that down and I've pressed it into the edges like that, and then I'm going to take a fork and I'm going to prick all over the base. Just like that, and then I'm going to put this into the fridge to chill for another 10 minutes while the oven comes up to temperature, and then I'll be back and we'll go on to the blind baking. The oven is preheated now, and what I'm going to do, I've chilled this pastry for that 10 minutes, and I'm going to take some parchment paper. You could use aluminium foil if you wanted to, and I'm going to put it inside the pastry, and I'm going to fill it with my baking beans. They're ceramic beans. Like that. Now you could use anything. You could use some rice or some dried beans, which you can then save and use again for the same purpose. And with that, like that, I'm just going to cut off excess paper. I'm going to put that into the oven and I'm going to bake it at that 200 Celsius, 180 Celsius with a fan, 400 Fahrenheit for 12 minutes. Then I take it out, remove the baking beans in the parchment paper and put it back into the oven and bake it for a further 8 minutes. That will bake the pastry through, and so it would then be ready to take our filling. So the pastry has now baked for 20 minutes in all, and it's ready for the filling. Now you could, if you wanted to, trim off these edges. I'm actually going to leave mine on because I quite like the rustic look. So I'm going to leave that to cool down as we get on to do the filling. And for that, I'm going to take my pancetta and I'm going to fry that off in its own fat until it sort of becomes crispy. If you were using ham, cubes of ham, you wouldn't have to do that, of course. The ham would already be cooked and ready to eat. So I'm going to fry this off, and then once that's begun to brown and go a little bit crispy, I'm going to add the leeks in and sweat those down until they reduce as well. So we'll let these fry until they've released a nice amount of fat and they've begun to brown and go a little bit crispy. Personally, I don't like them too crispy, so I won't go over the top with that. And with those cooked down quite a bit, I'm going to add in my leeks and sweat those off. As you can see, the leeks and pancetta have shrunk down quite a bit, and I think they're just about ready. So I'm going to turn the heat off, and I'm actually going to put that into a strainer so that if there's any excess fat, that can drain off while we prepare the rest of the filling. So what I'm going to do now, as that pancetta and leeks drains a little bit, I'm going to put my eggs into a larger bowl, and I'm going to add in my milk, and it double cream if I had it, but milk it is. And I'm actually going to just season with a little bit of salt and pepper. This is to taste. How much you have is entirely up to you. And then I'm going to whisk those together. I'm going to add in my parsley and my cheddar cheese, and whisk that around as well. And then I'm going to add in the leeks and the pancetta and stir that around. To get that combined. And I'm going to take my case, tart case, which I've now put onto a baking sheet just for ease, and I'm going to put that in and spread it around like that. And what I've actually got, which is an additional thing, is I have some grated parmesan, which I'm just going to sprinkle over the top, and then I'm going to put this into the oven and I'm going to bake it until it's cooked through and set, and that should be 15 to 20 minutes in all probability. So I bake that for 15 to 20 minutes, then I'll let it cool down a little bit and I'll come back and show you the results. I baked the pancetta and leek quiche for 18 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes is good, but 18 minutes, and I could see that it was set. So I took it out of the oven, and I did decide to trim off the top of the pastry. You don't have to do that, but I decided I would do that. And this is what it looks like. And it smells wonderful, I have to say. And I'm not a lover of cooked cheese, but I'll have a taste of this. It does taste very, very good. You get the hint, the sort of the cheese, and you get the saltiness of the pancetta. That is very good. This is, for me, it would be ideal for lunch, just this slice by itself. But you can have it for dinner with salad and things like that as well, of course. So this is quite easy, and you can mix and match the ingredients. Of course, the things you need really are the eggs and the pastry, and a little bit of cheese. But other than that, you can put in whatever you want. So I hope you've enjoyed this recipe, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below my video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.